Bad morning wake-ups and hangovers with a headache were becoming usual for me at this point, and it didn't help that I had been drinking a lot the night before. The thing that I couldn't get off my mind all weekend was the mysterious case and how in the world a lady that supposedly died 20 years before had found her way into the future. And just to die once more. Quite gruesome for a fate, and for some reason I started thinking about time travelers like it was legitimately a thing. It was Monday, August 13th, days after the investigation seemed to be cooling off on the case, but I knew I was far from done with the case. I needed to, however, make it to roll call on time at the station as things were already tense, and I wasn't trying to attract more attention. I got ready quickly for work and headed out of the station, making it on time for roll call. After that, I went straight to the gadget storage room, our famous Bat Cave, as I and the other cops called it. I planned on redoing it all. The information I received from the mobile AFIS about who the dead lady could have been couldn't have been right. Could it? Well, I thought not. Perhaps a malfunction. Either way, I decided to get a newer one and have those rescanned, fingers crossed that it wouldn't tell me she died 20 years ago. Processing. 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 I was tapping my foot, gritting my teeth, and looking frantically at the device as it went on for what felt like forever. But a timer would tell you 3 minutes. System is timed out. Failed attempt. I felt like I'd been slapped in the face and was now being called delusional by a device. I wasn't going without a fight though. I ran the process again, but this time more anxious with my heart racing. Processing. Processing. No results found. I couldn't believe it. I specifically kept my findings about the fingerprint matches away from everyone I knew, even 1045, whom I trusted cordially. I didn't want a situation where the data was wiped off to happen, and I didn't want to come off as some schizophrenic patient. One thing I knew for sure was that I remember seeing Michelle Klein as the proposed matching results from the AFIS, and I wasn't dreaming. I stood there, trying to understand what could possibly have happened with the results, and if anyone could possibly be behind the now missing data. Then I heard the loud tone blare throughout the station. It was the call to duty which most cops I knew hated to hear. Dispatch to all available units. We just received a call for gunshots fired near the McDonald's. The caller is unsure where the shooting occurred, but heard 3 gunshots followed by screeching tires and someone yelling. I was up and quickly went off to check out the situation before things got even worse than they already were. Upon reaching the site with the other cops, we did a thorough sweep of the area but could not really find anything worth raising an alarm over. Dispatch to all units. We just received a call from the hospital that they have a gunshot wound patient and would like an officer to respond. The dispatch got back to us, and, thanks to Sergeant Oakley offering rookie assistance, I was waiting all night at the hospital to question the victim after he had recovered. The week ran fast, and soon it was Friday. I had taken the time to do some little outside inquiries on the farmhouse and outside jobs. On Saturday, though, I came to the conclusion that I had to reinvestigate the farmhouse, but unofficially. I waited until dark and started to head out, when it occurred to me that I was headed out to a murder scene with no apprehended suspect or imprisoned killer. I rang up Officer 1045, asking if he was interested in checking out the scene with me, and thankfully he agreed. We arrived at the scene with Officer 1045 complaining about his back, while I prepared for the events of the night mentally, as I could see potential in this search. As usual, we did a sweep of the place, checking each and every corner, crack, possible place of entry and exit, and much more. I arrived at the door with the no entry tape used to warn of intruders. As I reached for the handle, that sound shocked me so badly to my toes. I had never turned around with my gun drawn and aimed randomly in a more dramatic way ever in my life. There was no one there. I looked from side to side in the darkness, with my torch pointed, imagining monstrosities running at me out of the dark, or worse. I followed the sound to a black cat at my foot, who was obviously trying to get my attention, and once she had it, she started rubbing her body against my foot as a sign of affection. "Jesus Christ, cat! What the hell are you screaming at me for?" I took a while to catch my breath as I had paused from breathing during the incident, and then greeted my new friend before heading back towards the back of the building. As I went around the back to find Officer 1045, I could feel myself being watched, which had me constantly pointing in every direction to find something. I eventually came upon a dark figure seemingly staring down at me from the closed window on top of the floor of the farmhouse. I flashed directly at it, trying to figure out what it could possibly be. This had me stepping, looking ahead as I tried to get a better visual of the figure. As I continued, the cat kept pace. I felt a sharp jolt from a sturdy metal hit my ankle, sending me to my knees. I screamed loud enough to get Officer 1045 running over with his torch pointed in my direction. He first checked up on me to ensure I was fine, which I was, thankfully I wasn't bleeding, and then on what happened. We found a door cellar, and apparently it was just the door cellar knob. It wasn't strange to find a cellar at a farmhouse, as most of them used for storage of wares and produce of all kinds, especially since refrigerators weren't a thing back in time. Officer 1045 was, however, confused about them, and didn't know what it was, which I thought was funny. I opened up the door, revealing a tunnel, and my colleague ushered me in. I took the first steps in and continued down the tunnel. Then, upon a small set of wooden stairs, which I had to be careful not to break, and then into a smaller space with a hatch leading higher. I opened up the hatch, took a deep breath, and looked through. There was a heavy rug blocking the way. Officer 1045 helped out, and we moved the rug out of the way, revealing a dark room above. At first, I didn't realize it, which was so strange since everything about the room felt like death and agony. But I was about to discover something that I probably shouldn't have, considering I was basically intruding on a murder scene, even though I was an officer myself. But this would also prove that I wasn't crazy, and I definitely was not at fault for the late finding of the corpse. The hatch led straight into the room the lady was murdered, and that explained a lot. Officer 1045 nudged me with a look that you get from your fathers who are both concerned and are trying to say you're making a mistake. He was right. This discovery was clever, but in the given circumstances, implicating. We quickly but carefully evacuated the scene and had cigarettes in our vehicle to cool off the pressure, even though I didn't smoke. I awoke Sunday and got ready for work. Everyone at work knew weekends were the best, and I was hoping things would go smoothly, just as always. But dang, the day had a lot of events prepared, and they were not really in my favor. I arrived, hopeful at the station, but as soon as I stepped in, I overheard my colleagues talking about the feds and being all tensed up. I was confused, but trying to stay positive for once in a long time, telling myself that this had nothing to do with me. "Barkley, get over here. Chief got called in today because of a surprise visit from some suits. He wants you in his office immediately," Officer 1045 said to me from his seat, and the smile on my face died out. I knew I was in for it. I headed to the chief's room, trying to wear a smile. I was going through a lot in my head as to why the FBI was here and how it involved me. "Barkley, get your ass in here!" Those were the chief's first words the moment he saw me. There were definitely men in suits who I supposed were the FBI and of importance with him in the office. "Hello, Chief. How can I help?" "Barkley, the marshals got called in to help with this case." The FBI was known to handle important cases like fugitives and outlaws, but this wasn't quite of that importance. Was it? I started wondering if the killer at hand was a fugitive, but there was only one way to find out. The chief continued to explain the situation, saying they had questions for me and all I had to do was cooperate honestly. I did, however, plan to do so. Tell them of what I knew. Well, officially. I wasn't about to tell them anything about my personal discovery on the case. especially concerning the fingerprints.
Officer Barkley, are you familiar with the U.S. Marshals Witness Protection Program?
That was their first question, and immediately I knew I was in for something a lot bigger than I had thought previously.